Any questions, please?
There was a suggestion, sir, for Mr. Request, that these Western Orientalists have been writing against Islam and the Muslims, but except for your replies and answers in Europe, we should correct information with factual references about Inquisition and mistakes that have been taking place.
That we've already done in the last case. In fact, the whole department has been founded in the almost 2 hours working on this task. People all over the world obtaining information, and those observations they are dedicated particular tasks of following that after reviewing the group and collecting data and all that being compiled. Now, the second phase is to be started, which is rebuttal and writing essays and books on these various attacks and allegations about. So that is being organized again here.
Maulvi Bashir Ahmad Sahab, the Nazir Dawud al-Tabligh, he had made an accident. He fell from a bus before Eid and he was badly injured. He has recovered, walks a little in his own house. He wrote to me in reply to my letter.
Right?
Yes, he has requested for a special prayer.
He is the one who was posted.
No, then Amin Sahab.
When is he coming? Why don't you remind them to send him as soon as possible?
And that the property we bought in Delhi, it has been bounded all around, and 2 rooms have been constructed just to confirm our position.
Right. Now, as far as the second part of this is concerned, I think that's more important, the second stage.
Yes.
And people like Dr. Barakat Ahmed and those who are already working on this, their services should be required mainly.
Yes.
But unfortunately, Dr. Sahib is very ill.
Yes.
Dr. Barakat, you know that?
I know him. I met him. I was in Delhi.
Quite right. No, but you know that he's gone to America for...
For this I was not aware.
On his way to America, he telephoned me from the airport. Unfortunately, I couldn't speak to him directly myself, but somebody received the message. So then I heard from him from America. He was to be operated upon the day before or 2 days ago. And the chances of success were 50-50. It was a very serious advanced stage of malignant tumor or malignant growth of some sort in the gallbladder, in the urinary bladder. The Indian doctors had given up hope, and they suggested that perhaps the only possible cure which can be expected is in America such and such surgeon is the last word on this. So he has gone there. He should be remembered in prayer. He is among the Ahmadis at present. He is the one man outstanding in this regard, that he knows the language of the Orientalists and the style of the Orientalists. He knows how to rebut them. And although sometimes our arguments are very strong, but their style is different. It's Eastern style. And when these Orientalists read them, they think that they are lowly placed people. They don't know how to go about it. But they can't say that to Dr. Basharat Ahmed, Dr. Barakat Ahmed. He's well recognized among their circles. So Allah gave him new life, and inshallah he'll be quite useful for Sivan.
We needed some house to stay in. He needed very much in Delhi. So these, though we are taking the house on rent also, as you had permitted.
Correct. But now the plot has also been bought, hasn't it?
Plot has been taken possession of, but it will take time to build up.
Of course it will take some time. So Dr. Sahib, please.
I've been holding myself to give chance to our visitors until now. I have to make a humble request, sir.
I thank you on their behalf.
Thank you very much. I am a member of the Central Tabligh Committee in UK, and it has been felt, sir, that a great hurdle or hesitation in indulging in the dialogue is the lack of basic knowledge of the beliefs of major religions. Although I know, sir, that there are books and literature available, but I feel that a few things which you kindly explained to me, which I knew before, with a different angle, I could learn better, and I could comprehend better. So it is a request that if you would kindly spare some time in these sessions and take one religion one day. I know it is very difficult in short time, but Judaism, Sikhism, Hinduism, and if possible communism, that will...
This requires quite a large treatment, okay?
Just the basics knowledge of the basic, it will form a kind of concise...
For instance, communism, how it should be understood by an Ahmadi and how he should go about criticizing it and comparing it with Islam and other religions and isms, that requires quite a large treatment, quite a few hours of would be required, not
I felt that
one session or two sessions.
If, for example, the basic beliefs of major religions, like as I explained, Judaism, Hinduism, and Sikhism, which we confront with, that will form a concise, basic study in comparative religions, and the people would be able to...
Yes, I think it's a good suggestion, inshallah. I won't be able to continue this over a long period, because then it will not give chance to others to ask small questions on this and that.
I just felt just
because this session is particularly for such people who have got some small questions and worries which generally are not found in books. And even if they are found in some books, they don't know how to reach them and where they are. So this particular session is generally for these purposes. Also on some important preaching style and approach, how the approach should be made, and the art of preaching as such. Plus some people come across difficulties during preaching, and a particular objection is raised by some opponent and they don't know how to handle it. So these things should be promoted here in this majlis. Or some difficult questions on various aspects of religion vis-a-vis other philosophies which have not been tackled as such by any book. So this is a general field, appropriate field for this particular session. But even if people ask other questions, I don't mind. It's better to be engaged, remain engaged, rather than sit quietly. But this, what you have pointed out, requires a larger and deeper attention. But what I can do is, occasionally if you remind me, once in a blue moon maybe, I speak on comparative religion, taking them up one after the other.
Small question.
The most important thing is first to understand how to study religions. What is Islam's attitude or stance vis-a-vis the rest of the religions? That's fundamental. Yes, please.
He said, "Amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa Rasul comes first, who brings the kitab. Apparently, it seems out of sequence. No, sir. I'm talking of Kutubihi and Rasul especially, sir. That is right, sir. And Malaika. But that is also right in my mind, with little knowledge. But it says Kutubihi and then Rasul. It seems out of sequence, sir.
That is in fact an age-long debate which we have started again. People have been discussing the subject whether the book was before the Prophet or the Prophet was before the book. And this ended into a very serious and sometimes fatal discussion on the question of whether the Quran was created or not created, whether it was eternal with Allah or whether it was a book written somewhere else. Their concept of space was very limited, and they couldn't think of space in the modern terms or in the dimensional terms. So they thought somewhere far away, a few 100 million miles, there was a book on which the Holy Quran was written and so on. All this is indicative of the fact that the book as such precedes prophets. Whether it is written somewhere or not, that is neither here nor there. The main thing to be understood is that book precedes prophet. And this is why this order has been chosen by Allah. Malaika are those who bring the book, but the book itself even precedes in a way the Malaika, because it is there in Allah's design or blueprint. So because the Malaika become instrumental in conveying this to the prophets, they are mentioned earlier. And prophets of course have come after this in sequence.
Then hadith which requires strict qualification. Nine Mashal Anbiya, one Rasul Allah Rasul. We the groups of prophets of God, we do not inherit our parents and ancestors, nor do we need property to be inherited by our descendants. The Quran is full of inheritance and the Warasa Solomon Dawud.
That is inheritance which has been mentioned by the in fact, these forestalls the dangers which befell early Islam after the Prophet ﷺ. The question of inheritance was raised in a very different way. That property of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa ﷺ, which he had in the capacity of the Prophet, which was not his personal property, because all his personal property he had already given away to the poor. Even that which was gifted to him by Hazrat Khadija was very soon after this given over, distributed to the poor. So whatever he received from Allah, part of it was his in a way. I mean, it was, the Holy Quran says it very clearly that it is his personal property. But the major part belonged to the state, Islamic State. So there too it was his habit that whatever he received personally he would not keep. After giving a portion to the wives, the rest he would distribute. So that was his personal habit. When he died, there was no question of his leaving any property to distribute it as inheritance. So that was the real state of affairs. If you consider inheritance in the material terms. But this was not the main problem. The main problem was the inheritance of his spiritual office. This tradition mainly deals with that. There are two issues I want to discuss both, because when you debate this issue with Shia, you should understand what actually happened. And this tradition which you have mentioned has a direct bearing on that. The Shias believe that Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam left both spiritual property and material property to be inherited by his offsprings. And by the offsprings, they meant Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala and Hazrat Fatima radiallahu ta'ala. As far as Hazrat Fatima is concerned, they think, this is their belief, that Hazrat Fatima in fact inherited the material property, not the spiritual. So Baba Frederick and all these things went to Hazrat Fatima in fact, and she was the proprietor of all the material property which he had left according to them, while in reality he had not. The only property he left was spiritual property, and that was controlled by this hadith, that the prophethood, the office which they hold, that all the prophets hold, that office is not inherited by blood relations. That system of inheritance is completely different. That is what he has pointed out. So they thought Hazrat Ali inherited his office, and he was the natural heir apparent after his death. So this hadith tells us that the holy prophets of Islam, not only Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they don't leave any spiritual property to their direct bloodline, but it is inherited through a different rule altogether. Now the verse you are quoting, and you want me to reconcile this tradition with that verse, Varasahu, Sulaiman, and there's so many other references of holy children or holy fathers having inherited them spiritually. Now that inheritance is controlled by a rule and a principle laid down by the Holy Quran very clearly by way of a conversation which passed between Hazrat Ibrahim and Rasul Allah Ta'ala. Hazrat Ibrahim prayed to Allah that you have given me so much. I want my children also to inherit this, to be on the same line, to remain recipients of your favors. In answer, Allah only said, La yanalu ahdul zalimin, which means a new phenomenon of controlling spiritual property has been declared by the Holy Quran, which shows that this is not an automatic inheritance. Those of the bloodline who would be pious and righteous, they would be favored by Allah, and they may also become spiritual inheritors. But they may. It's not a positive rule that they automatically become. But those among them who are counted among Zalimeen, they will be deprived of all right of inheritance whatsoever. So this is one explanation of those verses relating to the inheritance of earlier people. Secondly, this comparison shows us that if Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not leave any personal property, it did not mean that it was a must and this should be made a rule. Because if it were to be made a rule, then in the Holy Quran there shouldn't have been any law of inheritance at all. If that tradition of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam should have been taken as a must for everybody, then there was no room for any law of inheritance in the Holy Quran. Number one.
Number two, this reference to the early prophets, they're leaving some, let's say, property again, but I mean both spiritual and material, to their offsprings. There, the Hazrat Sulaiman inherited both spiritual and physical legacy of Hazrat Dawud. In both respects, he was the inheritor, successor of Hazrat Dawud. So that shows that when Ahmad says, Nano Masharul Anbiya La Nur Mereso La Nuraso, he is talking only of spiritual property. That is very clear now, because otherwise this cannot be reconciled with other verses of the Holy Quran, in which it is found that Hazrat Sulaiman and some others inherited their pious forefathers both in material terms and in spiritual terms. But Hazrat says we don't leave anything to be inherited, while previously physical properties were also left and the spiritual properties were also left. But physical properties went to the offsprings whether they were pious or not. The spiritual went to the offsprings only on their own merit, not by law of inheritance directly. So that is what he points out, that the prophets neither they received the office of prophethood by way of legacy from any father or forefathers, nor their children or offsprings would inherit such legacies by way of automatic law or regulation.
A woman has one husband, she marries. In next world, she can have two husbands. Islam says yes.
You're telling me this.
A woman marries and she remains widowed, husband dies. Then she marries again, and then they die again in the wedlock, they both die. And next world, she will have both husbands.
No, you are making a statement, not asking questions, aren't you? That you forget to mention it. Now, why have you stopped at 2? I know some women who married 4 times, one after the other, and their husbands died one after the other. And 1 or 2 perhaps were divorced. And there is also a possibility, and in real life I know such people, whose husband also had married earlier. So there was quite a chain on both sides. So it will be a very interesting family to visit after that.
They were friends, all they were friends that were in London.
The fact is that you can't conceive the relationship which is to be there. It is not possible. Moreover, if every wife is to be given to the husband, and if every husband is to be given to the wife, then for them they will be held in heaven, and heaven and hell. Have you heard of that parson who is said to be a very, very wicked man? He was very short of temper, very ill-tempered, and very unkind to his people. And he had all other vices as well, but he was still a religious minister of some sort, a pastor or something. So people thought that when this man would die, he would go straight to hell. So this man ultimately did die one day. And the very next night, one of the perishers saw this in dream, that this minister of religion, was sitting on the most beautiful ghoul that could be imagined. You know, the most beautiful apparition of a spiritual person which he could ever imagine. He had not seen the like of it. And she was sitting on a piece of cloud. And this person whom they had considered would go straight to hell was sitting on her lap. So he was flabbergasted. He said, what treatment Allah has meted out to this man. He doesn't know how to requite people. So he asked, according to the dream, asked this person, tell me one thing, one good thing which you had done on this earth, for which you have been rewarded with this beautiful reward. So before he could answer this question, the lady took it up and said, look here, you just misunderstand the whole thing. I am not his reward. He is my punishment. I am not his reward. He is my punishment. So this relationship can also develop there if the same people and with their same relationship are to be repeated exactly in the same manner, then for them it will be a punishment, even in heaven. So you don't know what is in store for you.
This hadith is not solve the problem.
Exactly. In fact, they are just analogies to make us understand that the things which you will find in heaven would be of your liking. The best you can dream of will be provided there. But the Holy Quran makes it very clear, manifestly clear in so many places, that the world to be has absolutely no bearing to the world that was. No relationship. And once you realize where you are and what you see, that will be completely different from your own present selves as well as your own conception of the things around. The Holy Quran tells that we will change you completely, totally into beings that have no relationship with your previous life. So those people who think that we will be reborn in the same body, they are totally mistaken. In more than one place, the Holy Quran makes it very clear that your new life would be so different from the present one that it will be a tabdila, and that help would be a complete change from your previous self. So new dimensions would be given, new senses would be given. Maybe instead of 5 senses we enjoy some 10 senses. You know, this thing is to be kept in mind, that whatever Allah has not provided us with, that we cannot conceive. It's impossible. A blind man, however best you try, could never conceive of sight. He has just 4 senses instead of 5. And a man who is dumb congenitally, he cannot conceive of hearing, whatever you try. You write to him things that this is hearing and that is not, but he will simply not understand because he has not been gifted with that. So those animals who are deprived of some senses, we know some of them, they cannot understand what man has been gifted, or the people, the things of higher order are gifted with. So that is one way of understanding what we will be in future. When God says repeatedly, you simply cannot understand, that means the pattern of senses would change altogether. That is one thing which one cannot understand. However you tell, if those things which we are going to find in heaven belong to the same senses, then however big they be, we can still understand them. Because our senses would cover, we have known here those senses and the tastes of those senses. But if Allah tells us positively that you simply cannot understand, if we apply this situation here, then I am making this analysis, the only things which you can never understand are those which pertain to senses beyond your present five senses. Looking backward, I explain again, those who have been gifted with only four senses among you cannot understand the fifth sense you are enjoying. Those who are given only three senses, they cannot conceive the second two, the last two, which you enjoy and they have been deprived of. So this is the phenomena which if you concentrate to understand this phenomena, then you can infer safely that in the life after death, the senses which we have been provided here will not be the same senses. A completely new set of senses will be born. And those senses would in way be related to hearing and sight and this and that, but will not be the same thing. Another proof of this is in the Holy Quran. Allah Ta'ala tells us, Man huwa fi hazihil ama, fahuwa fil akhirati ama. That means, Man kana fi hazihil ama, fahuwa fil akhirati ama. Whoever is blind here on this earth would be raised blind in the hereafter. Now that blindness is different blindness. It is not the same. Otherwise, all the people who are blind here would be raised blind there. Allah is talking of two different things altogether. So here blindness means something different, which has no relationship to the concept of blindness we have here. That is the material relationship. But still a phenomena is similar. That phenomena is similar. These eyes serve us to visualize things, to see things which are beyond us. So this is why they are called the eyes or sight in the next life, because through their means we'll be able to visualize things and see things beyond us. But not with eyeballs, not with the rays of light which we apply here, not with the retina, not with the nerve, what do you call it? Optic nerve. You know these things. So when Allah says blind, it is blind to the effect, to the ultimate effect, that is blind to the purpose. But as far as the sight, the machinery is concerned, it has no relationship with the machinery of the life to come.
ये कि इंसानी अज़ा मतलब किसी कर देना कि मौत के बाद किसी और को लगा दी जाए, क्या ये जायज़ है?
आपने गलत है किसी को?
There shouldn't be any objection. Why? If somebody wants to donate his eyes or his nose or anything he pleases to someone who is living, if that donation does not cause any peril to that person, then there is no harm whatsoever. Now this question arose in your mind because of this discussion naturally. Those mullahs who object to this say that if A's nose is given to B after the death, when A would be raised again, where will his nose go? Will he rise without a nose or without eyes, if he has donated eyes and so on? So this is the limited vision of the mullah which conceives of the same body rising there. Once one of these mullahs came to Rabba and discussed this matter with me, and he was very adamant on not accepting the Ahmadiyya version. So I said, look here, Maulvi Sahib, if you die a very old man, a tottering old person, which body would be raised? Your body of your youth would be raised, which is no longer there, or that old body, which is so loathsome to everybody. Then he began to understand. I said, if you rise with that loathsome body of 95, it will be a terrible ghoul, poor thing, who would be allotted to you. Or why not a ghoul of the same age? So then when it was personalized to him, then he began to understand and see light. That for the same body to be given new birth, this is absolutely no Quranic concept. The Holy Quran negates this idea repeatedly in so many terms. But those who are blind, they cannot see. Yes, please.
In the Holy Quran it says that he creates life from death and death from life. We explain a little bit on this, especially the second part. Yes, but yes, I know. Well, the thing is, in common knowledge, it's understandable when life is created from death. It's generally understood. Or when God says He creates death from life, what's the bearing on it?
That's the same phenomenon. People die and people are born out of nothing. New life is added and death is added, taken from life. Moreover, people, when they are spiritually dead, they are given new life. They are revived by the coming of prophets. And those who have been alive before, they ultimately die out. They leave the message and spiritually die. So this is a most common phenomenon. Life emerging from death and death emerging from life, both literally and metaphorically. Yes, please.
So my question is very basic. Is the man superior or is faith superior? Man lives by his faith. While replying to his keep in context, to explain my question, I would say the sweetness or the melody of a song, the melody of a song is in singer or in song.
What is happening? One thing, whether the hand was before the egg or the egg was before the hand.
No, sir, this is not answering the question.
Why not? Try to find the answer.
It's not logic, sir. It's not logic.
Why not? Tell me whether egg was before the hand or hand was before the egg. There's no other question, there's no question.
No, sir, because a man lives by faith, by his convictions.
And the egg is born out of hand and hand is born out of egg. As simple as that. Why don't you consider this logical and this logical? As simple as this one.
Because you see,
my simple mind, this is more logical. This question of whether the hand was before the egg or the egg was before the hand. I am asking properly on what? Well, if you have not been able to put your question properly, I hope I have to answer my question properly.
No, see, to explain my question, sir, I said the melody of a song is in singer or in song.
You are too much generalizing things. The fact is that if somebody is gifted with the art of singing or the instruments required for singing, then it is in the singer to begin with that the melody is found. But it is too generalized a statement. Things differ from time to time, from mood to mood, and also the subject matter and the presentation of the song itself. All these factors go into the computer and come out on the other end as a song. For instance, a very good song which impresses the singer so deeply that his whole soul is involved in it. When he sings that song, that song would be a different song from other songs which he has been singing. And if, fortunately for him or for the listeners, he also is in the best of health and has not eaten any sour food before singing, then his song would be given a new quality. And if he also has a mood which coincides and concords with the song, if the song is a happy song and he happens to be in a happy mood on that particular time, then a further quality would be added to the song, and vice versa. And if also the time of the day is promoting music, the time, the influence of the weather, everything, for instance, all these things given together, and yet the poor person happens to be in Radwa, where for the sake of earning sawab, Wafda has put the light off. And during a scorching summer day, everybody is suffering hell. And that poor singer with all these things, even if he tries to sing, I think it will be a very poor quality song. But suppose the conditions are ideal, the weather, the climate, the time of the day, the sun is setting or rising, all these things put together would add something to the song that it may make it eternal. So that question is so generalized that a single answer cannot be found. The quality of song lies in all these factors put together.
My idea was to bring you to the answer me whether my faith can make me a better man, my Hindu's faith can make me a better man, my Buddhist faith.
So why didn't you ask that? Why didn't you ask that in so many words? Now I understand what you mean. Now you have put it in proper perspective. The fact is, again, most important thing about faith, as learned from the Holy Quran, is this, that if you have a faith and you act accordingly, honestly, this is most important. Even if your faith is left behind in time, it's an obsolete faith. Yet if you are honest enough to act according to your own faith, that will give you harmony and truth. And Allah would never be harsh to any truthful person. This is a repeated promise of the Holy Quran given to all the followers of various religions. So that is a constant feature. A relationship between thought, views and act. But now consider a better thought and a concordance with that better thought of your actions. That would definitely produce a better man. If the teaching is superior, and this is a constant feature that all those who are given their respective teachings act accordingly, then the result would not be the same. Those who are given inferior teachings and they act upon them would develop good, well, but relative to their teachings.
those who are given superior teachings, they will develop to a higher being. So there are two factors involved, not one alone. Number one, if the religious people of all the world are acting according to their faith and their belief, they have not to fear. Allah gives them this final word that they should consider themselves in peace. They have nothing to fear because they are honest people, they are truthful people. Secondly, Allah tells us that religion after religion has been rejected, having been left far behind in history and having become obsolete. So when a new, better religion is declared, it is foolish to stick to the older ones. Once you come across a better version, if you don't accept it, that shows that you are not true. So that promise of there being no fear for the truthful would be taken away from you because you are no longer truthful. A truthful person is the one who recognizes beauty where he sees some. So if a Hindu comes across Islamic teaching and is given a fair chance to understand it and rejects it, the promise of the Holy Quran will not extend to him, even if he continues to act upon his own teachings. Because the fundamental quality was that of truth, and that he himself has rejected. So this is the answer to those who say that according to the Holy Quran, every religion can coexist, and there is no need for one to become a Muslim. This is not what the Holy Quran wants to say. The Holy Quran says that in your own respective religions, as long as you do not receive the final truth, if you are honest and act upon whatever you are given, then you do not have to fear. But if you come across a complete truth, a better version, a more beautiful teachings, and then you reject and insist that you will continue to act as you acted before, then you will not be treated among the righteous and counted among the righteous.